Close your eyes for a little while and imagine the first gentle light of morning still resting below the horizon. The stars remain above the wide land of Egypt, bright and quiet in the cool darkness before another warm day begins. The Nile River moves without hurry, carrying its calm waters past fields, villages, and sleeping homes made from sun-dried mud brick. A faint breeze drifts across the riverbanks, touching rows of tall reeds that whisper softly together. The air is cooler now than it will be only a few hours later. Soon the desert sun will climb into the sky, warming every stone, every road, and every rooftop. But for this peaceful moment, the world feels almost still. A few oil lamps continue to glow behind small windows. Their gentle light spills across smooth floors where woven mats lie beside simple wooden stools. Clay jars stand quietly against the walls. Baskets filled with grain wait for another day of baking. Somewhere nearby, someone has already begun to grind wheat using heavy stone tools. The slow rhythm of stone against stone blends with the distant sound of flowing water. This is the Egypt known not only by kings and temples, but by ordinary people. It is the Egypt of fishermen preparing their boats before sunrise. The Egypt of builders stretching tired muscles after another long day beneath the hot sky. The Egypt of mothers baking flat bread while children slowly wake beneath linen blankets. The Egypt of merchants arranging baskets of onions, dates, and fresh vegetables beside dusty roads. The Egypt of scribes whose careful hands spend long hours writing neat lines upon sheets of papyrus. Life here follows the river. The Nile decides when fields are planted, when crops are harvested, and often how families spend each season. Every day begins early because the cool hours before sunrise are precious. Work done before the heat arrives feels lighter, even if only by a little. Yet even in this carefully ordered world, people experience the small discomforts that belong to every age. Feet become sore after many miles of walking. Shoulders ache after carrying heavy baskets. Eyes grow tired after long hours of careful writing. Backs become stiff from bending over fields. And sometimes, quietly, almost without warning, a headache begins. It may start as a gentle pressure behind the eyes. It may come after standing beneath the bright sun for many hours. It may arrive after little sleep, long work, or too much heat. Sometimes it follows worry. Sometimes it simply appears without anyone knowing exactly why. Thousands of years ago, the people of ancient Egypt knew these pains very well. They did not think of headaches exactly as people do today. Their understanding mixed careful observation with deep spiritual belief. They noticed patterns. They recognized that certain herbs seemed to comfort pain. They learned which scents brought relaxation. They paid attention to rest, cool water, and quiet places. At the same time, they also believed that unseen forces could affect the body. For them, healing was rarely separated from daily life, religion, or nature. Everything belonged together. The body, the spirit, the family, the river, the seasons. Even the smallest illness became part of the larger rhythm of existence. As dawn slowly approaches, one small home begins to stir. Its walls are built from thick mud bricks that keep the inside cooler than the air outside. The roof is flat, supported by wooden beams covered with reeds and packed earth. A ladder leans against one wall, leading upward where family members sometimes sleep during the hottest nights of summer. Inside, a man named Hori opens his eyes. His sleep has not been easy. The dull ache inside his head has followed him since yesterday afternoon. He spent many hours helping repair a section of irrigation canal several fields away from the village. The work required lifting heavy baskets filled with wet mud while standing beneath the endless Egyptian sun. By midday the heat shimmered above the earth. The brightness reflected from the water. Sweat covered his face. His shoulders grew heavy. Now, even after sleeping, the ache remains. It is not sharp. It simply presses behind his forehead like an invisible weight. He sits quietly before standing. There is no reason to hurry. Morning always comes one slow step at a time. His wife has already risen. She kneels beside a low grinding stone, turning grain into flour with practiced movements that have become as natural as breathing. The sound is soft and steady. Stone against stone. Again. And again. The smell of fresh grain slowly fills the room. Nearby, a small clay oven still holds warmth from yesterday's baking. Soon another batch of bread will begin. The family says very little. Morning conversations are often quiet. There will be many words later in the day. For now, everyone moves gently. Hori rubs his forehead. His wife notices. She does not seem surprised. Headaches are common enough that few people react with alarm. She reaches toward a small woven basket where dried herbs are carefully stored. Some were gathered from nearby marshes. Others came through trade. Each has its own scent. Each has its own purpose. Ancient Egyptian households often kept collections of useful plants, just as they stored grain, oil, and linen. Knowledge passed from parents to children through generations. A grandmother might remember which leaves eased stomach discomfort. A father might know which flowers helped someone sleep more peacefully after difficult work. Not every remedy worked every time. But many became trusted companions through daily life. Hori's wife crushes a few fragrant leaves between smooth stones. The pleasant smell rises slowly into the cool morning air. She mixes them with a little oil inside a small clay bowl. The mixture becomes soft beneath her fingers. Very gently, she places a little across his temples. She massages the skin using slow circles. No one rushes. Healing itself seems to move at the pace of the river. Outside, birds begin calling from reeds near the water. A donkey shifts its weight nearby. Someone opens a wooden gate. Farther down the road, another family begins baking bread. The smell drifts through the village. Fresh bread. Warm clay. River water. Morning smoke. These familiar scents have greeted generations of Egyptians. The headache does not disappear immediately. No one expects that. Instead, there is patience. Rest for a few moments. Drink cool water. Avoid unnecessary strain until the day truly begins. Ancient Egyptian life often demanded endurance. Fields required constant care. Buildings needed repair. Fishing nets had to be mended. Animals required feeding. Children needed guidance. Because labor was so physically demanding, people learned to respect even small moments of relief. A shaded tree. Cool water. Gentle conversation. The comfort of family. These simple things mattered greatly. As sunlight slowly reaches the rooftops, more villagers appear outside. Sandals brush against packed earth. Clay jars are lifted onto shoulders. Children chase one another before parents gently call them back. The village awakens without hurry. Some workers will remain close to home today. Others will travel several miles to nearby fields. Merchants prepare baskets filled with vegetables, woven cloth, pottery, and dried fish. A fisherman carries rolled nets toward the Nile. His own head feels heavy this morning as well. Yesterday he spent many hours rowing against the current beneath bright sunlight. The muscles along his neck remain stiff. He stretches slowly before stepping into his narrow wooden boat. Even without written medical training, ordinary Egyptians often understood that neck tension and headaches could arrive together. Gentle rubbing of tired muscles became another familiar form of comfort. Hands that worked hard during the day also learned how to soothe pain in the evening. Children watched. They remembered. Years later they repeated these same careful movements for their own families. Knowledge traveled quietly across generations. Not inside grand libraries alone, but inside kitchens, workshops, fishing boats, fields, simple homes. This peaceful sharing of experience became one of Egypt's greatest treasures. Far away, inside one of the larger temple complexes, another morning begins. The priests rise early. They wash carefully before beginning sacred duties. Cleanliness holds deep importance. Fresh linen garments replace those worn yesterday. Water cools tired faces. Incense begins to burn. Its fragrant smoke curls upward through still air. Among these priests are men who also serve as healers. Ancient Egypt does not separate religion and medicine in the way many societies would much later. Healing belongs both to practical knowledge and sacred understanding. A healer may know the useful properties of herbs. He may also recite prayers. Neither feels unusual. Both are believed to help restore balance. A patient suffering frequent headaches might receive scented oils, careful examination, comforting words, and sacred rituals together. Each supports the other. For many Egyptians, illness is not simply physical. Harmony itself must return. Balance must return. Peace must return. As the morning continues, scribes gather inside administrative buildings. Their work appears less physically demanding than farming or construction, yet it brings its own quiet burdens. Hour after hour they bend over smooth sheets of papyrus. Brushes move carefully through black and red ink. Characters must remain neat. Mistakes waste valuable writing materials. Concentration rarely stops. Bright sunlight enters through doorways. Eyes grow tired. Necks become stiff. Foreheads tighten. It is easy to imagine that many scribes finished long days with headaches unlike those experienced by farmers, yet equally uncomfortable. Some probably rested their eyes. Some stretched tired shoulders. Some gently massaged their temples while taking short breaks beneath shaded courtyards. Life offered different work. But every kind of work carried its own small discomforts. And throughout Egypt, people searched for peaceful ways to ease them. The warm day has only just begun, and already the village fills with quiet purpose. The slow rhythm of ordinary life continues beside the timeless waters of the Nile, where every sunrise brings familiar work, familiar faces, and familiar hopes for comfort, health, and another gentle day beneath the ancient sky. The morning grows brighter with quiet certainty. The first golden light spreads across the Nile, touching its slow-moving surface until the water shines like polished bronze. Gentle ripples drift around clusters of papyrus reeds where white birds stand patiently, waiting for fish beneath the calm water. The coolness of dawn begins to slip away, replaced by the steady warmth that every Egyptian knows so well. Across the villages lining the river, life settles into its familiar rhythm. Doors open one by one. Clay jars are carried toward the wells. Goats wander through narrow paths between mud brick homes. Children sweep dust from small courtyards using bundles of reeds tied together with cord. The smell of fresh bread continues to drift through the morning air. Bakers have already been awake for hours, feeding small ovens with dried reeds and bits of wood. Round loaves rest upon woven baskets, their warm scent mixing with smoke, river water, and the earthy smell of damp clay. For most people, another ordinary day has begun. For Hori, the gentle ache behind his eyes remains. It is softer now than it was before sunrise, yet it has not completely disappeared. He stands outside his home for a moment, letting the cool breeze from the river touch his face. Sometimes the simple feeling of fresh air seems to quiet the pressure inside his head. He closes his eyes for only a few breaths, listening instead of looking. He hears sandals brushing across packed earth. He hears distant voices greeting neighbors. He hears a wooden cart rolling slowly over uneven ground. Above everything else, he hears the quiet and faithful sound of the Nile. The river never seems to hurry. Perhaps that is one reason it comforts those who live beside it. Its steady movement reminds people that each day passes little by little. Pain arrives. Pain leaves. The seasons change. The floodwaters rise and fall. Crops grow, are harvested, and grow again. Even discomfort becomes another passing part of life's endless cycle. Hori reaches for a small clay cup. His wife has filled it with cool water drawn before sunrise. The water feels wonderfully fresh. Many ancient Egyptians understood that drinking enough water mattered, especially during the hottest months. Although they did not describe dehydration in modern words, they certainly recognized that the body struggled after many hours beneath the fierce sun. Workers who ignored their thirst often became weak. Their heads grew heavy. Their thoughts became slow. Their movements lost strength. Experience became its own teacher. Again and again, generations observed the connection between heat, thirst, and aching heads. No scroll was needed to notice what everyday life quietly revealed. As Hori drinks, his young daughter watches him with gentle curiosity. She cannot be more than 7 years old. She has seen her parents care for one another many times before. When someone feels tired, another family member brings water. When someone returns home exhausted, another prepares food. When illness appears, nobody faces it alone. This quiet habit of caring becomes one of the strongest threads holding Egyptian households together. Children learn compassion not through lessons, but through ordinary mornings exactly like this one. His daughter walks over carrying a folded linen cloth. She dips one corner into cool water from a storage jar. Without speaking, she offers it to her father. He smiles softly. The damp cloth rests across his forehead. Its coolness eases the warmth gathering beneath his skin. Simple comforts often mattered more than complicated remedies. A cool cloth. A shaded place. A few peaceful moments. These were gifts almost every family could offer. As the sun climbs higher, the roads become busier. Merchants begin their journeys toward nearby settlements. Some balance baskets upon their shoulders. Others guide donkeys carrying jars of oil, bundles of flax, woven mats, or sacks filled with grain. Dust rises beneath every step. The roads themselves are never perfectly smooth. Tiny stones press against leather sandals. The dry earth breaks into soft powder that clings to ankles. Walking beneath such conditions for many hours could leave anyone feeling weary by afternoon. Many merchants traveled great distances. Their work demanded patience more than speed. A successful trader often understood every bend in the river, every resting place beneath scattered trees, every village willing to exchange goods, and every season when travel became easier or more difficult. Among them walks an older merchant named Painhezi. His beard has begun to turn white. The lines beside his eyes have deepened after decades beneath Egypt's bright skies. This morning he feels the familiar tightening along one side of his head. It usually arrives after several long days of travel. He recognizes it immediately. There is no fear. Only quiet acceptance. He adjusts the linen cloth wrapped around his head, allowing it to shade his face more completely from the growing sunlight. Head coverings served many purposes. They protected skin. They softened the brightness. They kept dust away from the eyes. Perhaps, without realizing it fully, they also prevented some headaches from becoming worse beneath the blazing desert sun. Many practical habits became part of Egyptian life simply because they worked. Not every useful custom needed a written explanation. The body remembered. Experience remembered. Meanwhile, in another village farther downstream, an elderly woman sits outside her doorway sorting dried herbs collected during previous seasons. Small woven baskets surround her. Each contains something different. One holds fragrant mint. Another contains dried flowers. Another holds bark carefully shaved from branches. Nearby rests a small jar filled with thick honey, sealed against insects with a smooth clay lid. She has become known throughout her neighborhood for her knowledge of plants. People visit not because she claims magical powers, but because she has spent nearly an entire lifetime watching nature. She remembers where certain herbs grow after the flood waters retreat. She knows which leaves should be gathered before flowering. She understands how quickly some plants lose their fragrance if left beneath direct sunlight. This wisdom has been earned slowly. One season after another. One careful observation after another. When a young mother arrives carrying a child who has been crying because of a painful head, the old woman listens first. She asks gentle questions. Has the child eaten? Has the child slept well? Has there been too much time beneath the hot sun? Has there been fever? Has there been injury? Listening itself becomes part of healing. Only after hearing the whole story does she prepare anything at all. She crushes fresh herbs using a smooth stone worn flat by many years of use. The fragrance rises slowly into the warm air. She mixes the herbs with a little oil and places the mixture inside a tiny clay bowl. The scent is clean and calming. Perhaps it does not remove every headache. Perhaps no remedy ever could. But the careful attention, the quiet voice, and the feeling that someone cares bring their own kind of comfort. Sometimes healing begins there. Not only in the medicine, but in the kindness surrounding it. Elsewhere, inside one of Egypt's busy workshops, skilled craftsmen shape beautiful objects from wood. The room smells of cedar and fresh shavings. Sunlight enters through narrow openings high in the walls. Tiny particles of dust float gently through the beams of light. Woodworkers bend over benches, carving chair legs, boxes, and household furniture with remarkable patience. The steady sound of carving tools fills the room. Tap. Scrape. Tap. Scrape. Hour after hour. The concentration required is immense. A single mistake may ruin many days of careful work. One young craftsman pauses, rubbing the muscles between his eyes. His headache has appeared little by little throughout the morning. He sets his tools aside. His master notices immediately. There is no harsh criticism. Instead, he nods toward the shaded doorway. Sit for a while. Nothing more needs saying. Everyone understands. Even the strongest worker sometimes needs a few quiet moments. The young craftsman steps outside. The breeze feels different there. He watches leaves moving gently above him. He drinks cool water. He stretches his neck slowly from one side to the other. No grand treatment. No elaborate ceremony. Just rest. Sometimes rest is enough. Ancient Egyptian medicine often balanced practical observation with deeper beliefs about harmony. People knew that exhaustion affected the body. Too much labor without pause could weaken anyone. Although daily survival required hard work, moments of recovery remained deeply valued. Even farmers understood this. By midday, when the sun stood highest overhead, many sought whatever shade they could find. Palm trees became gathering places. Walls cast precious shadows. Simple shelters built from reeds offered welcome relief. People sat quietly together, sharing. They looked at the eyes. They asked where pain was felt. They considered how long it had lasted. They watched how a patient walked and spoke. This thoughtful observation became one of their greatest strengths. Although many explanations involved spiritual ideas, practical experience guided much of their daily work. One healer gently touches the forehead of an older farmer. The man's skin feels warm after working beneath the sun. He is encouraged to rest inside the cool stone building for a time before returning home. Incense burns quietly nearby. The fragrance drifts through the room. The dim light offers welcome relief from the brightness outside. Even the peaceful atmosphere may help ease the tension inside the weary man's head. The temple itself feels cooler than the streets beyond its walls. Stone columns rise high above. Their shadows move slowly as the afternoon passes. Birds occasionally cross the open courtyards before disappearing again into the endless blue sky. The quietness invites slower breathing. Slower thoughts. Calmer hearts. Many people likely left such places feeling lighter, even when their illness had not completely disappeared. The mind and body often respond to peaceful surroundings more deeply than we notice. As the day begins its slow journey toward evening, Hori finishes his work more carefully than usual. He has taken fewer heavy loads today. His companions quietly helped without making him feel ashamed. That too is part of village life. People understand one another's tiredness. Tomorrow the situation may be reversed. Today one man receives help. Another day he will offer it himself. The headache that greeted him before dawn has softened into little more than a distant memory. Perhaps the herbs helped. Perhaps the cool water. Perhaps the gentle hands of his wife. Perhaps the slower pace he allowed himself. Or perhaps all of these together formed the true remedy. As he walks home along the dusty path beside the Nile, the evening breeze begins to return. It carries the sweet smell of damp earth rising from the riverbanks. Children laugh softly while chasing one another between houses. Women prepare the evening meal. Smoke rises in thin blue lines into the quiet sky. The heat finally begins to loosen its hold upon the land. Another ordinary day in ancient Egypt slowly drifts toward night, where tired bodies, peaceful homes, and the steady sound of the Nile once again offer comfort to those who have carried both work and quiet aches beneath the endless desert sun. Evening settles over the Nile with almost no sound at all. The bright heat of the day slowly releases its hold on the land. The sun lowers toward the western horizon, where the desert stretches into soft shades of gold, amber, and pale rose. Long shadows reach across the fields, touching rows of barley and emmer wheat that have stood patiently beneath the sky since sunrise. The air changes first. The wind that had felt warm through the afternoon becomes cooler, carrying the gentle scent of river water and damp soil. It moves quietly through palm leaves, causing them to sway with a slow, sleepy rhythm. The day's dust begins to settle. Even the birds seem to call more softly now. For many Egyptians, this is the most welcome part of the day. Work begins to end. Bodies finally have permission to rest. The ache in tired muscles no longer needs to be ignored. Builders set down heavy stone tools. Farmers lean wooden hoes against the walls of storage sheds. Fishermen pull their boats onto the muddy banks of the Nile, where they will remain until another morning arrives. The village breathes out together. Hori walks home along the familiar path beside the irrigation canal. His sandals leave gentle prints in the fine dust. The headache that troubled him before dawn has faded into only a faint memory, though his shoulders still feel heavy from many seasons of labor rather than from this single day alone. He does not hurry. Almost no one does. The evening belongs to slower movements. Neighbors greet one another with quiet smiles. Children carry bundles of dry reeds gathered for tomorrow's cooking fires. A young boy carefully leads two goats back toward a small enclosure built beside his family's home. The animals seem just as ready for rest as the people around them. As Hori reaches his doorway, he pauses for a moment beneath the fading light. His wife is already preparing the evening meal. A shallow clay pot rests above a small fire. Lentils cook slowly with onions and herbs. The smell fills the courtyard, warm and comforting. Nearby, fresh bread cools upon a woven mat after being baked earlier in the afternoon. His daughter sits beside her grandmother. The older woman holds a small basket filled with dried plants collected months ago during the cooler season. She carefully separates the leaves one by one, removing stems that have become too brittle with age. The little girl watches every movement. She asks quiet questions. Her grandmother answers patiently. She explains that not every plant is gathered at the same time of year. Some should be picked just after sunrise while the morning air remains cool. Others are best collected before flowers fully open. Some roots must be washed carefully before drying. Others lose their usefulness if left too long beneath direct sunlight. These lessons are not spoken as formal instruction. They arrive naturally, woven into ordinary conversation. Knowledge passes gently from one generation to the next. No one writes these moments onto papyrus. Instead, they are remembered in careful hands and patient minds. Many centuries later, countless names will be forgotten. Yet the quiet habit of teaching children through daily life will continue across the world. The grandmother reaches into another basket and removes several dried blue lotus petals. She smiles softly. The flower has long held special meaning throughout Egypt. Its blossoms rise from still water each morning and gently close again as evening arrives. People admire its beauty. Some enjoy its delicate fragrance. Others believe it brings calm to both body and spirit. The old woman crushes a few petals between her fingers, releasing their faint scent into the cooling air. She tells her granddaughter that pleasant smells can sometimes quiet a restless mind. A person who worries too much may sleep poorly. A person who sleeps poorly may wake with a heavy head. Although she does not use modern words, her gentle wisdom comes from many years of watching people live their ordinary lives. She has seen grief. She has seen joy. She has seen long harvests beneath the blazing sun. She has seen years when the Nile flooded generously and years when the water rose only a little. Through every season she has noticed that the body often carries the weight of the heart. When people find peace, sometimes their pain grows lighter. As darkness slowly approaches, lamps begin to glow inside homes across the village. Small clay lamps filled with oil give off gentle yellow light. Their flames dance softly whenever the evening breeze slips through open doorways. The light is never harsh. It leaves the corners of each room resting in quiet shadow. Families gather close together. Some eat sitting upon woven mats. Others rest on low wooden stools carefully made by village craftsmen. Children listen while older relatives tell stories remembered from long ago. These are not always stories of great kings or mighty temples. Many speak instead of ordinary people. A fisherman who found kindness from strangers during a difficult season. A farmer whose patience saved his crops. A faithful neighbor who shared grain during a poor harvest. Simple stories often stay in the heart longer than grand ones. Meanwhile, farther north along the Nile, another household prepares for the evening in much the same way. A young scribe named Nebumun returns from his work. His fingers still carry tiny traces of black ink. His neck feels stiff after bending over papyrus throughout the day. The headache that began during the afternoon has become stronger. It settles behind his eyes like a quiet weight. He knows this feeling well. Writing demands careful attention. Every line must remain straight. Every symbol must be formed with patience. The work appears peaceful from a distance, yet many hours spent concentrating beneath changing light can leave the mind exhausted. Nebumun's father notices his son's tired expression. Without speaking, he gestures toward a shaded courtyard. There, beneath a simple awning woven from reeds, sits a smooth stone bench that remains pleasantly cool long after sunset. Nebumun sits. His father places both hands gently upon his shoulders. With slow, practiced movements, he massages the muscles along the neck. Firm enough to ease tension. Gentle enough to comfort. The young scribe closes his eyes. The muscles slowly begin to soften. Ancient Egyptians often believed that careful touch could help restore balance within the body. Whether easing stiff joints, sore backs, or aching heads, gentle massage became part of everyday family care. It required no expensive tools. Only patience. Only kindness. Only time. The courtyard grows quieter. Somewhere beyond the walls, someone begins playing a simple reed flute. The melody drifts across the evening air, rising and falling as gently as the river itself. No audience gathers. No performance is announced. The music simply becomes another part of village life. It mingles with distant laughter, the occasional call of water birds, and the soft crackling of cooking fires. For someone carrying a headache after many hours of work, such sounds may offer their own quiet medicine. Not because they remove pain completely, but because they remind the listener that peace still exists around them. Inside the temples, evening rituals begin. Priests move carefully through stone halls carrying small lamps. The scent of incense slowly fills sacred rooms. Its smoke rises in delicate curls toward painted ceilings where stars, birds, and sacred symbols have been carefully drawn by artists many years before. The temple feels wonderfully cool after the day's heat. Thick stone walls protect the interior from the blazing sun outside. People who arrive seeking relief from illness often find comfort before any remedy is prepared. The peaceful surroundings themselves seem to invite slower breathing. One elderly woman enters carrying her grandson. The child has complained all afternoon that his head hurts. He has no fever. He has simply spent too many joyful hours running beneath the bright sun with other children. The healer smiles kindly. He asks the boy simple questions. Has he eaten? Has he rested? Has he drunk enough water? The child answers honestly. Not very much. The healer nods gently. He encourages the grandmother to let the boy drink cool water and rest in the shade before tomorrow's games begin. He prepares a small mixture of fragrant herbs to place upon the child's forehead. The boy watches curiously as the leaves are crushed inside a smooth stone bowl. Their fresh scent rises into the room. He breathes deeply without even realizing it. Soon the cool paste touches his skin. The sensation surprises him at first. Then he smiles. Children have always responded to gentle care. Thousands of years pass, yet this simple truth remains unchanged. Outside the temple, the stars begin appearing one by one above the quiet land. The Nile reflects them softly. Fishing boats drift gently against their moorings. Palm trees become dark shapes standing silently beside the riverbanks. Night arrives without hurry. For the workers of Egypt, nighttime offers something nearly as valuable as food itself. Sleep. Not luxurious sleep. Not perfect comfort. Most families rest upon woven reed mats or simple wooden frames covered with linen. Their pillows are often carved from wood or shaped from stone, lifting the head slightly above the sleeping surface. To modern eyes, these headrests may seem unusual. Yet for Egyptians they serve both practical and cultural purposes. Some believe they help keep insects away from the face. Others value the way they support the neck. Many have used them since childhood. People grow accustomed to what surrounds them every night. Even the simplest object becomes familiar enough to feel comforting. Before lying down, many households perform the same gentle routines every evening. Cooking fires are safely covered. Clay jars are filled for morning. Animals are checked one final time. Doors are secured with wooden bars. Oil lamps burn a little longer while families finish quiet conversations. The pace of life grows slower with every passing moment. A cool breeze slips through the village once more. It carries away some of the heat stored in walls and rooftops throughout the day. People breathe a little more easily now. Those who woke with headaches hope tomorrow will be gentler. Those whose pain has faded give silent thanks for simple relief. No one expects a life without discomfort. Ancient Egypt has always asked much from its people. The sun is strong. The work is steady. The seasons demand patience. Bodies grow tired. Heads sometimes ache. Yet alongside these hardships lives another tradition just as ancient. The tradition of caring for one another. A wife preparing fragrant herbs before sunrise. A daughter offering cool water with small, careful hands. A father easing the tension from his son's shoulders. A grandmother sharing quiet wisdom beside an evening fire. A healer listening before speaking. These gentle moments become as important as any remedy placed inside a clay bowl. Night deepens across the valley. The stars grow brighter above the sleeping fields. The river continues its endless journey northward, just as it has for countless generations. Its waters move without noise, carrying moonlight upon their surface like polished silver. Within the mud brick homes that line its banks, breathing becomes slower. Conversations fade. Oil lamps burn lower. One by one, weary eyes close. And somewhere in the peaceful darkness of ancient Egypt, another ordinary day filled with work, kindness, small headaches, gentle remedies, and quiet family care slips softly into memory, leaving only the calm sound of the Nile flowing through the night. The night passes gently over the Nile Valley. The moon hangs quietly above the wide river, its pale light resting upon the water as though it has nowhere else it wishes to be. The current moves with patient certainty, carrying reflections of stars that seem almost close enough to touch. Along the riverbanks, tall reeds sway in the cool breeze, making a soft rustling sound that blends with the endless whisper of flowing water. Most of the villages are asleep now. The day's voices have faded. The laughter of children has become a memory. The steady tapping of stone tools has stopped. Even the donkeys and goats rest quietly inside their simple shelters. Only an occasional dog lifts its head before settling back into sleep. Inside the mud brick homes, families lie upon woven reed mats. Linen blankets cover tired bodies that have worked from the first light of dawn until the evening shadows stretched across the fields. Wooden headrests cradle sleeping heads, lifting them gently above the bedding. The air inside the houses remains pleasantly cool. The thick mud brick walls have slowly released the heat they gathered during the day. Small windows allow the night breeze to drift inside, carrying the clean scent of the Nile mixed with distant palm trees and damp earth. For many people, this is the hour when headaches finally loosen their grip. The body asks for little more than silence. The mind lets go of the day's concerns. Muscles slowly soften. Breathing becomes deeper. Ancient Egyptians may not have understood sleep in the language of modern medicine, but they certainly recognized its quiet power. A laborer who slept well often woke stronger. A child who rested peacefully usually returned to play with bright energy. Even the elderly spoke of good sleep as one of life's simple blessings. When headaches lingered for several days, healers sometimes encouraged patients to seek more rest whenever possible. It was not always easy. Daily life demanded much. Fields could not wait. Fishing nets needed repair. Bread still had to be baked. Animals still required care. Yet whenever rest could be found, people welcomed it with gratitude. Farther down the river, in a village surrounded by date palms, an elderly potter wakes briefly during the night. His name is Mena. He has spent nearly 50 years shaping clay gathered from the fertile banks of the Nile. His hands remain remarkably steady, though his back has grown stiff with age. Many long afternoons leaning over the potter's wheel have left their mark upon his body. Tonight he wakes because of a familiar ache behind his temples. It is not severe. It arrives quietly, just as old friends sometimes appear without invitation. He sits up slowly. There is no alarm. No frustration. Only patience born from many years of experience. He reaches toward a small clay jar resting beside his sleeping mat. Inside is cool water drawn from a covered storage vessel before sunset. He drinks carefully. Then he steps outside. The night greets him with gentle kindness. Moonlight covers the courtyard in soft silver. The packed earth beneath his feet still holds a little warmth from the previous day, but the air itself feels wonderfully cool. He looks toward the river. From this distance he cannot see every ripple, but he can hear its steady movement. The sound has comforted him since childhood. He remembers standing beside these same waters as a small boy while his father taught him how to gather smooth clay from the riverbank. He remembers carrying heavy baskets beside older brothers. He remembers learning to center wet clay upon the wheel with careful hands. Those memories arrive gently now, carried by the peaceful night. As he stands beneath the stars, the pressure inside his head slowly eases. Perhaps it is the cool air. Perhaps it is simply the quiet. Sometimes there is no need to know exactly why comfort arrives. It is enough that it does. Before returning inside, Mena washes his face with a little water from a clay bowl. The coolness refreshes him. Water has always held a special place in Egyptian life. It nourishes crops. It carries boats. It cools tired skin. It cleanses both homes and temples. For someone troubled by the heat of the day, even a small splash of cool water across the forehead can feel wonderfully soothing. Back inside his home, Mena lies down once more. The headache has not vanished completely. Yet it no longer demands his attention. Within a few moments, sleep quietly returns. As the hours pass, the eastern horizon begins to change. At first, the darkness becomes only slightly softer. The stars nearest the horizon fade almost unnoticed. The river reflects a faint gray light instead of deep black. Another morning is preparing to arrive. Long before the sun appears, some people are already awake. The first to rise are often the bakers. Their work must begin while the air is still cool. A woman named Tia quietly steps across the smooth floor of her home. She has done this nearly every morning for as long as she can remember. She wraps a simple linen garment around herself and ties back her dark hair. Nearby, the household remains asleep. She tries not to wake anyone. Every movement is careful. Every sound is gentle. She kneels before the heavy grinding stone. The familiar work begins. Grain is poured into the shallow hollow. The upper stone moves slowly. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The steady rhythm fills the room. There is something peaceful about repeated work performed without hurry. Many Egyptian tasks followed this same pattern. Grinding grain. Weaving linen. Kneading bread. Pulling fishing nets. Shaping clay. Writing neat lines upon papyrus. The body learned each movement so well that the hands often seemed to know what to do without conscious thought. While grinding grain, Tia notices a slight tightness across her forehead. She smiles softly. She knows exactly what it means. Yesterday had been especially busy. Her family helped neighbors prepare food for a festival honoring the local temple. Many extra loaves had been baked. Many more meals had been cooked. She had rested only a little before sleeping. Now her body reminds her that even joyful work can leave behind quiet exhaustion. She finishes grinding the grain before walking outside. The village well sits only a short distance away. Several other women have arrived. Morning greetings are warm but unhurried. No one raises their voice. Everyone still carries the calm of the early hour. As they lower clay jars into the cool water, conversation turns naturally toward everyday matters. A child who has begun losing baby teeth. A field that received enough water after the last irrigation. A goat expecting young. An elderly neighbor whose headaches have become more frequent during the hottest weeks of summer. No one speaks with fear. Instead, they exchange small pieces of practical wisdom. One woman recommends spending more time beneath the shade during midday. Another suggests placing cool linen across the forehead after returning from the fields. Someone else remembers an herbal mixture prepared by her grandmother many years ago. Their advice comes not from written scrolls but from shared experience. Every family has learned something. Every generation has noticed another small detail. This quiet exchange of knowledge strengthens the community. People leave the well carrying more than water. They carry reassurance. Back at home, Tia lights the oven. The smell of baking bread slowly fills the house. Warm flour. Fresh dough. A little smoke. Soon the children begin waking. One by one they stretch, rub sleepy eyes, and step into another day. Her youngest son walks toward her still half asleep. His hair is untidy. His face is peaceful. He leans gently against her side while she shapes another loaf. She smiles without stopping her work. Simple moments like these become the heartbeat of family life. Not every memory comes from grand celebrations. Many of the most treasured memories are quiet ones. The smell of bread before sunrise. The sound of birds greeting the morning. The gentle touch of a mother's hand. Far away, near one of Egypt's larger stone quarries, another morning begins very differently. Groups of laborers prepare for another day cutting blocks of limestone. The work is demanding. Heavy hammers rest beside carefully shaped chisels. Ropes lie coiled upon the ground. Wooden sledges wait to carry enormous stones across prepared paths. Among the workers is a young man named Beck. He is strong and determined, but this morning he wakes with a dull headache. The previous day had been especially hot. Fine white stone dust had covered his face and clothing until sunset. His eyes still feel slightly irritated. He blinks several times before joining the others. An older worker notices immediately. He places a reassuring hand upon Beck's shoulder. "There is still time before the hardest work begins," he says quietly. They sit together beneath a rough shelter built from wooden poles and woven reeds. One shares water. Another tears fresh bread into smaller pieces. A third offers slices of onion. The meal is simple. Yet everyone eats slowly. No one wishes to begin heavy labor with an empty stomach. Many Egyptians believed that proper nourishment helped maintain strength throughout the day. Although they could not explain every illness, they recognized that weakness often followed hunger. A body without food struggled more easily beneath the fierce sun. After breakfast, the men wrap linen cloth around their heads to shield themselves from the coming heat. Some apply a little oil to exposed skin. Others stretch their backs and shoulders before lifting the first tools. These quiet preparations have become habits developed over countless years. Each small action makes the day's labor a little easier. Each reflects the careful wisdom earned by generations of workers who understood the land through daily experience rather than written theory. As the first rays of sunlight spread across the quarry walls, the pale stone begins to glow softly. The workday is about to begin once again. The rhythm of hammers, voices, footsteps, and patient labor will soon return. And somewhere among those steady sounds, another ordinary Egyptian will quietly rub tired temples, drink cool water from a clay cup, pause beneath a patch of shade, and trust that with kindness, rest, and the slow passing of time, even the heaviest headache may gradually become as gentle as the morning breeze drifting across the timeless waters of the Nile. The first sunlight reaches the eastern edge of the Nile with quiet grace. It does not rush across the valley. Instead, it slowly brushes the tops of the palm trees, warms the reeds along the riverbanks, and finally stretches across the wide fields where countless footsteps will soon begin another day's work. The air is fresh for only a little while. Soon the familiar warmth will return. For now, however, the morning belongs to birds gliding low above the water, fishermen pushing small boats away from the muddy shore, and farmers walking peacefully toward their fields with wooden tools resting across their shoulders. The village wakes in gentle layers. A rooster calls from somewhere behind a cluster of mud brick homes. A baby stirs inside a quiet room. A woman opens a wooden shutter, allowing the cool morning breeze to drift inside. Nearby, a pair of donkeys begin their day with slow, patient movements, their ears turning toward every small sound around them. Nothing feels hurried. The pace of life follows the same steady rhythm that has guided the Nile for generations. As the sun rises a little higher, its light reaches the small workshop of a linen weaver named Seisha. Her home stands near the edge of the village, where bundles of harvested flax have been drying beneath a simple shelter made from reeds and wooden poles. The fibers have already been cleaned and combed until they are soft enough to become fine thread. She sits before a wooden loom that has served her family for many years. Its beams are smooth from countless hands. The cords have been tied and retied so many times that each knot seems to carry its own quiet story. Seisha begins to weave. Her hands move with remarkable calm. Back and forth. Thread over thread. A gentle pull. A careful adjustment. Again. Again. The sound of the loom is soft enough to blend with the morning breeze. Weaving asks for patience more than strength. A hurried hand creates uneven cloth. A distracted mind allows threads to cross where they should remain straight. So Seisha works slowly, giving each movement her full attention. She has learned that quiet concentration often feels lighter than rushing. Still, even gentle work can bring its own tiredness. After several hours, she pauses. Her eyes feel strained. The muscles across her forehead tighten almost without her noticing. She places the shuttle down and looks through the open doorway toward the river. The simple act of letting her eyes rest upon the distant water brings a feeling of relief. She closes them for a moment. The breeze touches her face. She listens instead of working. A dove calls from a nearby roof. Children laugh somewhere farther down the road. The rhythmic splash of an oar echoes softly across the Nile. She breathes slowly. Then, only when her eyes feel rested, she returns to the loom. Many ancient Egyptians discovered these small pauses through experience. No one counted minutes. No one measured productivity. The body quietly asked for rest, and wise people learned to listen. Farther along the river, a fisherman named Didu guides his narrow wooden boat through calm morning water. Mist still lingers above the surface of the Nile, giving the river a peaceful, dreamlike appearance. The world seems wrapped in silence. Only the gentle creak of the boat and the soft dripping of water from his oar disturb the stillness. Didu has been fishing since he was a boy. His father taught him how to read the movement of the current. His grandfather showed him where fish often gathered among reeds during different seasons. Knowledge passed through quiet mornings exactly like this one. No written map could replace years spent watching the river. As he casts his net into the water, Didu notices a slight pressure behind his eyes. He smiles to himself. Perhaps yesterday's bright sunlight stayed with him a little too long. Perhaps he did not drink enough after returning home. Perhaps he simply needs another peaceful morning upon the water. The Nile has always been a place of work. Yet it is also a place of calm. The steady movement of the current slows hurried thoughts. The wide open sky eases a crowded mind. Many fishermen spend long hours listening only to birds, water, and wind. Such quiet becomes its own companion. As Didu waits for the net to settle, he reaches into a small woven basket beside him. Inside rests a round loaf of bread, several fresh dates, and a clay cup carefully wrapped in damp cloth to keep the water inside cool. He eats slowly. There is no reason to hurry breakfast. The fish will not disappear simply because he takes another few moments to rest. Nearby, another fisherman rows past. They exchange warm greetings. Their conversation is simple. They ask about families. They speak about the river's water level. One mentions that his brother has been troubled by frequent headaches since helping repair a large storage building several weeks ago. The other nods with understanding. He says his own uncle found relief by working only during the cooler hours whenever possible. Neither man claims to know every answer. Instead, they quietly share observations gathered through ordinary life. That is often how wisdom grows. Little by little. Person by person. Season after season. Back in the village, the marketplace slowly fills with activity. Merchants arrange baskets filled with onions, garlic, lentils, figs, melons, and fresh herbs. Potters display smooth jars that catch the morning sunlight. Woodworkers lean carefully carved stools against their stalls. The smell of warm bread drifts between narrow paths lined with woven mats spread across the ground. The marketplace is busy, but rarely chaotic. People know one another. Greetings are unhurried. Children remain close to their parents while watching every interesting object around them. Among the merchants sits an elderly woman named Henut. She sells bundles of carefully dried herbs tied together with thin strips of flax. Some people buy them for cooking. Others seek them for their pleasant fragrance. Still others hope they may bring comfort during times of illness. Henut enjoys speaking with those who visit her stall. She never promises miracles. Instead, she listens. One customer explains that her husband has complained of headaches after many weeks working on irrigation channels beneath the hot sun. Hannah nods thoughtfully. She suggests herbs whose fresh scent many people find calming. She also reminds the woman to encourage her husband to rest beneath shade whenever the opportunity appears. Strong people still need quiet moments, she says gently. The customer smiles. Sometimes simple words carry as much comfort as medicine itself. The market continues to fill. A young apprentice from a nearby pottery workshop arrives carrying freshly fired bowls balanced carefully upon a wooden tray. His steps are cautious. Each bowl represents many hours of work. The clay had first been gathered from the Nile. It had been cleaned, mixed with water, kneaded patiently, shaped by careful hands, left to dry, then fired within a hot kiln. Only after all these steps could it finally reach the marketplace. The apprentice's forehead glistens with sweat even though the day is still young. The heat is already beginning to rise. He shifts the weight of the tray from one shoulder to the other. An older merchant notices. Without hesitation, she offers him a clay cup of cool water. He accepts gratefully. Kindness often appears in very ordinary ways. No great ceremony follows. Only a shared understanding that everyone grows tired sometimes. As the sun climbs higher, its light becomes brighter upon the whitewashed temple walls in the distance. Inside those temples, scribes continue recording deliveries of grain, oil, and linen. The careful work never truly ends. One senior scribe named Pentu adjusts the position of his writing board. He has learned through many years that a small change in posture eases the strain upon his neck. He stretches his fingers before beginning another line of writing. His younger assistant watches with interest. Pentu notices. He smiles. "You must care for your hands," he says quietly. "And your eyes." The lesson is short. Yet it remains with the young apprentice. Knowledge about health often hides inside everyday advice rather than formal instruction. A careful craftsman protects his tools. A careful scribe protects his hands. A careful farmer protects his strength. A careful fisherman protects his boat. Little by little, these habits become part of daily life. Near midday, the heat settles across the valley with familiar weight. The air becomes still. The sky turns a brilliant pale blue without a single cloud. The stones beneath people's sandals grow warm. Dust rises more easily from the roads. Those working in open fields begin looking toward patches of shade created by palm trees or storage buildings. Rest is not a sign of weakness. It is simply part of living wisely beneath the Egyptian sun. Hori, who has now gone several days without another serious headache, pauses beside an irrigation canal. The water flows slowly between carefully shaped banks. Dragonflies skim across the surface. Small frogs hide among thick reeds. He kneels beside the water and splashes a little across his wrists and forehead. The coolness feels refreshing. His friend, who works nearby, does the same. Neither speaks for several moments. They simply enjoy the relief. Sometimes silence between friends says everything that needs to be said. The afternoon stretches onward with its usual rhythm. Workers return to their tasks after resting. The sounds of wooden tools, quiet voices, and distant animals once again fill the valley. Yet beneath all that steady labor remains another rhythm, softer and easier to miss. It is the rhythm of people caring for themselves and for one another. A mother reminding her son to drink water. A father encouraging his daughter to rest in the shade. Neighbors sharing herbs gathered during the previous season. Healers listening patiently before offering advice. Grandparents teaching children which plants grow beside the river after the flood has passed. None of these moments seem extraordinary. Yet together they create a way of life where comfort is found not only in remedies, but in attention, patience, and gentle care. As the afternoon slowly begins its journey toward evening once again, the sunlight softens just enough to hint that another peaceful sunset will soon arrive over the timeless waters of the Nile, where countless ordinary Egyptians continue their quiet lives, carrying both the small burdens and the simple comforts that have shaped their days for generations beyond memory. The afternoon slowly begins to soften. The sun still hangs high above the Nile Valley, but its brightest light has started its gentle journey toward the western desert. Long hours of work have already passed. The fields shimmer beneath the warm air, and the distant outlines of palm trees seem to float in the heat. The river alone appears unchanged. Its waters continue their quiet path through Egypt, just as they did yesterday, and the day before that, and countless generations before anyone now living can remember. Boats drift peacefully along its surface. Some carry baskets filled with vegetables. Others hold bundles of papyrus reeds tied carefully with flax rope. A few transport limestone blocks cut from distant quarries. The oars dip into the water with slow, steady movements. Splash. Lift. Splash. Lift. The rhythm is almost like breathing. On one of these boats sits a middle-aged boatman named Kimwazet. His skin has grown dark from many years beneath the Egyptian sun. The muscles in his arms are strong, though they carry the quiet tiredness that comes from a lifetime of rowing. Today he shares the boat with two young apprentices. They are eager to learn the river. Not simply where it flows, but how it changes. One boy asks why they travel close to one bank before crossing toward the other. The older boatman smiles. The river speaks, he says softly. You only have to watch. He points toward the surface. Small ripples reveal a gentle current hidden beneath the calm water. Floating reeds drift in one direction while the wider current moves another way. Birds gather where fish swim near the surface. The wind shifts ever so slightly before the water changes. Everything offers a quiet lesson. The apprentices listen carefully. Learning in ancient Egypt often happened this way. A teacher rarely rushed. The student watched. Waited. Practiced. Made mistakes. Then practiced again. The river itself became a classroom. As the boat glides forward, one apprentice rubs the side of his forehead. The bright sunlight reflecting from the water has begun to tire his eyes. Kimwazet notices immediately. Without speaking, he reaches beneath a folded linen cloth and hands the young man a simple head covering. It helps, he says. The apprentice wraps the cloth loosely around his head, letting it shade his eyes. Almost at once, the brightness feels softer. Small acts of care often arrived without ceremony. No long explanation. No praise. Only quiet kindness. The journey continues. A cool breeze rises from the water. It carries the scent of wet reeds and rich black soil left behind after the Nile's annual floods. That smell is deeply familiar to everyone living along the river. It means fertile fields, healthy crops, fresh beginnings. It is the smell of life itself. Far inland, away from the river's edge, another part of Egypt lies beneath the open desert sky. Here, narrow roads wind between rocky hills where caravans occasionally pass carrying goods from distant lands. Travelers move carefully. The desert asks for patience. It offers beauty, but it also demands respect. A small caravan pauses beside a cluster of acacia trees. Their thin branches cast just enough shade for people and animals alike. The travelers loosen the ropes securing their bundles. Donkeys lower their heads gratefully. Clay jars are opened. Water is shared. No one drinks quickly. Every sip is valued. Among the travelers is an elderly woman who has spent many years trading woven baskets between villages. She carries no great wealth, only carefully crafted goods and a lifetime of experience. A younger traveler notices her pressing gentle fingers against her temples. "Does your head trouble you?" he asks. She nods. "A little." She smiles kindly. "The sun has a strong voice today." The younger traveler laughs softly. Not because her pain is amusing, but because her words feel familiar. Many older people describe the heat almost as though it were another companion walking beside them. The woman unwraps a small linen bundle. Inside are several dried leaves gathered during the previous growing season. She crushes one between her fingers. The fresh scent rises immediately. She closes her eyes for a few quiet breaths. The headache remains. Yet the pleasant fragrance seems to ease the tension carried within her thoughts. Nearby, another traveler pours a little cool water over a folded cloth. He offers it without being asked. She accepts with gratitude. The damp linen rests gently across her forehead. Together they sit beneath the acacia tree in comfortable silence. The leaves above them move softly whenever the breeze passes through. Sometimes the greatest comfort comes from simply not being alone. Back beside the Nile, children have finished their morning lessons. Some have spent the day learning letters from patient scribes. Others have practiced counting baskets of grain or measuring lengths of rope. Education is not available to every child, yet those fortunate enough to learn understand that writing is a respected skill. A young student named Hui carefully rolls a sheet of papyrus before placing it inside a wooden case. His fingers still carry faint marks of ink. He stretches his neck. Writing has required many hours of careful attention. His teacher notices. "Walk before you sit again," the older man says gently. Hui steps outside. The sunlight has become softer now. He walks slowly around the courtyard. Flowers grow beside a shallow pool where lotus blossoms rest upon the still water. Dragonflies hover above them. Tiny frogs disappear beneath broad green leaves whenever footsteps approach. The quiet garden has been designed with care. Stone paths wind gently between small trees. Fragrant plants grow close to shaded walls where the air remains pleasantly cool. Teachers understand that learning becomes easier in peaceful surroundings. Hui sits beneath a sycamore fig tree. He leans back against its broad trunk. Above him, leaves rustle quietly. The headache that had begun behind his eyes slowly fades. Perhaps his mind simply needed a little distance from the page. Many people throughout Egypt discover the same truth. Even careful work asks for moments of rest. As afternoon moves toward evening, the temple gardens become busier. People arrive not only to pray, but also to enjoy the calm. Children walk respectfully beside their parents. Older couples stroll slowly along shaded paths. The scent of incense drifts gently from nearby buildings. Water flows through narrow channels feeding small pools where fish swim lazily beneath floating lotus flowers. Temple gardens offer something precious. Stillness. In a world shaped by labor and heat, stillness becomes its own gift. One healer walks through the garden carrying a woven basket. Inside are freshly gathered herbs. Some will be dried for future use. Others will be prepared while still fresh. A young apprentice follows close behind. He asks many questions. Why do we gather these leaves before sunset? The healer smiles. The morning dew has gone, he explains. The leaves are dry now, but they still hold their strength. The apprentice nods thoughtfully. He kneels beside another plant. May I gather these? The healer gently shakes his head. Not yet. They need another few days. There is no impatience in his voice. Only quiet instruction. Healing begins long before anyone becomes ill. It begins with learning the seasons, watching the weather, understanding the land, respecting time. Nothing important is hurried. The apprentice remembers every word. Years from now, he may pass the same lessons to another young student walking these same peaceful paths. In another village farther south, an elderly musician prepares for a small evening gathering. He owns a beautifully carved wooden harp. Its polished surface reflects the fading sunlight. Before playing, he carefully tunes each string. The notes rise softly into the warm air. One by one. Each sound lingers only a moment before disappearing into silence. Music holds an important place in Egyptian life. It accompanies festivals, family celebrations, religious ceremonies, and quiet evenings shared among friends. Gentle melodies often fill homes after the day's work has ended. Some believe beautiful music calms both heart and mind. The old musician certainly thinks so. He has seen tired workers smile after hearing familiar songs. He has watched restless children become peaceful while listening to slow melodies before bedtime. He has noticed that even people troubled by headaches sometimes close their eyes and breathe more deeply as the music surrounds them. Perhaps sound itself can become a kind of medicine. Not because it removes illness, but because it invites peace. As sunset approaches, families begin preparing the evening meal once again. Cooking fires are lit. The smell of onions gently frying in clay pots drifts through the village streets. Fresh herbs are chopped with careful hands. Lentils simmer slowly. Flat bread warms beside glowing coals. Neighbors exchange greetings while carrying water home from the wells. Children help gather small bundles of dry reeds for tomorrow morning's fires. The village seems to move together like one large family. Someone always notices if another person looks tired. Someone always offers help carrying a heavy basket. Someone always shares an extra loaf when harvests have been generous. This quiet generosity becomes woven into everyday life as naturally as linen threads crossing one another upon a loom. No one speaks of it as something extraordinary. It is simply the way people live. As the western sky turns shades of amber and deep gold, Hori sits outside his home with his family. The day's labor has ended. His daughter leans against his shoulder. His wife shapes fresh flax fibers while listening to the evening birds. No one feels the need to fill every moment with conversation. Silence has become comfortable. The headache that troubled him several mornings ago has not returned. Yet he remembers it. Not with worry. Only as another reminder that every person, no matter how strong, sometimes needs gentle care. Above them, the first evening star begins to appear. Soon many more will follow. The Nile continues its endless journey through the heart of Egypt, carrying boats, reflections, quiet songs, and the stories of ordinary people whose lives are shaped not by grand moments alone, but by countless small acts of patience, compassion, rest, and simple healing beneath the timeless desert sky. The evening star shines a little brighter with every passing moment. Above the Nile Valley, the sky slowly changes from warm gold to soft lavender, and then to a deep blue that seems almost endless. The last light of the sun lingers along the western horizon, touching the distant desert hills before quietly slipping away. The heat finally begins to loosen its gentle hold upon the land. A breeze arrives from the river. It moves through the tall papyrus reeds with a soft whisper. It brushes the broad leaves of the date palms. It carries the fresh scent of water into villages where another long day of work has come to its peaceful close. Families step outside their homes. The air indoors has been warm throughout the afternoon, but now the courtyards feel comfortable once again. Children sit beside grandparents. Neighbors gather near shared ovens where the last loaves of bread are cooling. Oil lamps begin to glow one by one, their small flames flickering gently whenever the evening wind finds its way through a doorway. The village seems wrapped in quiet contentment. No one has forgotten the work of the day. The sore muscles remain. The dusty sandals still rest beside each entrance. Hands are rough from carrying baskets, pulling ropes, shaping clay, and cutting reeds. Yet evening asks nothing more. It simply invites everyone to rest. Near the edge of the village, where the fields meet the riverbank, an old fisherman named Passer walks slowly toward the water. He is no longer as quick as he once was. His beard has become silver. The lines on his face tell the story of many seasons spent beneath the Egyptian sun. Still, he visits the river every evening. Not because he must, but because it has become part of his life. He settles onto a smooth stone that has rested beside the river longer than anyone remembers. The stone is still slightly warm from the day's sunlight. He places his hands upon his knees and watches the current move gently past. He has often noticed that his headaches come less frequently on evenings like this. After the wind has cooled. After the day's worries have settled. After the noise of work has faded into silence. He does not know why. He has never tried to explain it. He simply accepts the comfort. The river has taught him many lessons. Some cannot be spoken. They can only be experienced. Nearby, two young brothers untangle a fishing net that will be used again before sunrise. The older boy works carefully. The younger one grows impatient. He pulls too quickly. The rope tightens into another knot. Their father smiles kindly. "There is no need to fight the net," he says. "It has all night to wait." The boys slow their hands. The knot gradually loosens. The younger brother laughs softly. Sometimes patience solves what strength cannot. This lesson belongs not only to fishing. It belongs to healing as well. Many headaches cannot be hurried away. They soften little by little. Like the evening itself. As darkness settles across the fields, the insects begin their nightly songs. Their gentle chirping fills the air without disturbing the peace. Frogs answer from shallow pools left behind by irrigation channels. Far away, a night bird calls only once before silence returns. The sounds never compete with one another. Instead, they seem to belong together, each finding its own quiet place within the night. Inside one modest home, a young mother named Merit prepares her oldest son for sleep. He has spent the afternoon helping carry bundles of flax from the fields. Although he is proud to help, his small body is tired. As she washes the dust from his face, she notices him rubbing his forehead. "Does your head ache?" she asks gently. He nods. "A little." She smiles with understanding. The child has grown quickly this past year. He wants to work like the older boys. Sometimes he forgets that he is still young. She wets a clean linen cloth with cool water drawn from a covered jar. Very gently, she lays it across his forehead. The coolness surprises him. He sighs softly. She smooths his hair with slow movements. No hurry. No worry. Only quiet care. As they sit together, she begins telling him a simple story. Not about kings. not about distant wars. Instead, she tells him about a tiny bird that built its nest among the reeds beside the Nile. Each morning the bird gathered only one small piece at a time. A single reed. A single feather. A small strand of dry grass. The nest was never built quickly. Yet day after day, little by little, it became strong enough to shelter new life. The boy listens with heavy eyes. His headache begins to fade into the background. Soon he is no longer thinking about it at all. His breathing grows slower. His mother waits until he has fallen asleep before carefully lifting the cloth from his forehead. She blows out the nearby oil lamp. Moonlight now provides enough light for the room. Outside, the village has become wonderfully quiet. Elsewhere, not far from one of Egypt's great temple complexes, an apprentice healer continues his evening lessons. His teacher has invited him into a small storeroom lined with wooden shelves. Clay jars stand neatly arranged. Each bears a simple mark identifying what it contains. Dried herbs, seeds, resins, honey, fragrant oils. The room smells earthy and warm. The apprentice breathes deeply. Every shelf seems to hold years of careful observation. The older healer removes a small jar filled with honey. He places it upon the table between them. Honey is precious, he says. It nourishes. It protects. It comforts. The apprentice nods. He has seen honey used many times. Sometimes mixed with herbs. Sometimes spread upon wounds. Sometimes stirred into drinks. The healer continues. But remember. He pauses. The person matters more than the remedy. The apprentice looks up. The older man smiles kindly. If someone is frightened, speak calmly. If someone is tired, let them rest. If someone carries pain, listen before you answer. The young student remembers every word. The shelves around him are filled with useful things. Yet perhaps the most valuable lesson requires no jar at all. Compassion. Listening. Patience. These cannot be stored on a shelf. They must be practiced every day. Beyond the temple walls, the moon rises higher into the sky. Its light reflects from smooth limestone columns. Owls glide silently between the trees. The cool night air settles over the gardens. The pools filled with lotus flowers become perfectly still. Each blossom folds its petals, resting until morning sunlight returns. Ancient Egyptians often watched these flowers closely. Every sunrise they opened. Every evening they closed again. The quiet rhythm reminded many people of renewal. Of endings that gently became beginnings. Of rest preparing the body for another day. Across the valley, farmers sleep deeply after long hours in the fields. Builders rest beside families who have waited patiently for them to return home. Boatmen dream while the Nile continues flowing outside their windows. Potters, weavers, bakers, fishermen, scribes, and merchants all surrender to the peaceful silence of the night. Some still carry small aches from the day's labor. A sore shoulder. A stiff neck. A tired back. Perhaps even a lingering headache. Yet sleep slowly softens each discomfort. The body repairs itself quietly, asking for nothing more than time. In one home, an elderly grandmother wakes briefly. She listens. The room is filled with the peaceful breathing of children and grandchildren sleeping nearby. She smiles to herself. She remembers nights from her own childhood when she listened to the same gentle sounds. The generations seem to flow together like the Nile itself. Parents become grandparents. Children become parents. Knowledge passes onward. So does kindness. She closes her eyes again. Before sleep returns, she whispers a quiet prayer for good health over those she loves. It is simple. Short. Almost as soft as the wind outside. Whether spoken aloud or held silently in the heart, such prayers have accompanied Egyptian families for countless generations. Not because they expected life to be free from illness, but because hope has always been a faithful companion. As midnight slowly approaches, the stars fill every corner of the sky. The desert beyond the fertile valley becomes almost invisible beneath the darkness. The river alone continues to reveal itself, reflecting moonlight like a ribbon of polished silver winding gently through the land. Its steady movement never stops. Day after day. Season after season. Century after century. Just as it nourishes the fields, it also quietly shapes the lives of the people who depend upon it. Their remedies for headaches are simple. Cool water gathered before dawn. Fragrant herbs crushed with patient hands. Gentle massage from someone who cares. Moments of shade beneath palm trees. Rest after honest work. Peaceful music. Kind words. Deep sleep beneath the cool night air. None of these promise perfection. Yet together they create something far greater. They create a life where healing is shared. Where pain is met with compassion instead of haste. Where ordinary people care for one another in ways so gentle that they become almost invisible. And beneath the endless stars of ancient Egypt, while the Nile whispers quietly through the sleeping valley, another peaceful night carries those quiet acts of kindness safely into tomorrow. The night lingers gently over the Nile Valley, as though it is in no hurry to leave. The stars remain bright above the wide sky, scattered like tiny lamps across the darkness. The moon has begun its slow journey toward the western horizon, and its silver light rests softly upon the quiet river. The Nile continues to flow with calm confidence, never stopping, never rushing, carrying cool water through villages where nearly everyone is still asleep. Only a handful of people are awake. A temple guard walks slowly along a stone wall, his sandals making the faintest sound against the smooth ground. He carries a small oil lamp whose warm flame dances whenever the breeze passes by. He pauses from time to time, listening to the peaceful silence around him. There is little to hear. A distant owl calls from a grove of sycamore trees. The gentle splash of water against the riverbank. The quiet rustle of reeds swaying together. The soft breathing of a sleeping village. The guard has walked this path for many years. He knows every stone beneath his feet. Every doorway. Every corner where shadows gather before dawn. He has noticed that the calmest hours of the night often leave his own mind feeling lighter. When he was younger, he sometimes returned home after long days with a heavy ache behind his eyes. The constant brightness of the afternoon sun, followed by hours watching over the temple grounds, could leave his head feeling tight and tired. Over time, he discovered that these quiet walks beneath the stars brought him peace. The cool air settled around him. His breathing slowed. The muscles across his forehead relaxed without his even thinking about them. Sometimes the simplest medicine was the peaceful passing of time. As he reaches the temple gate, he looks toward the eastern horizon. There is only the faintest hint of pale gray. Morning is still some time away. He smiles quietly. The world is resting exactly as it should. Not far from the temple, in a modest home built from sturdy mud bricks, an elderly woman named Tayset also wakes before sunrise. She does not rise because she must. Her body has simply grown accustomed to these early hours after many decades of life over the land of ancient Egypt. She sits for a moment upon her woven sleeping mat, the day still lingers inside the mud brick walls. Her grandchildren remain asleep nearby. Already filled the sky. One child softly turns over beneath a linen blanket. Another hugs a small woven cushion while dreaming peacefully. The room feels cool and comfortable. The thick walls have protected everyone from the lingering warmth stored in the earth. Tayset reaches toward a small wooden chest standing beside the wall. Inside are carefully folded linen cloths, a few treasured family belongings, and several tiny bundles wrapped with flax cord. She unties one of the bundles. Inside rests a mixture of dried mint leaves and fragrant flowers gathered many months before. The scent is gentle, fresh, clean. She lifts the herbs close to her face and breathes deeply. The familiar fragrance reminds her of countless mornings from years long past. She remembers walking beside her own mother through marshes near the Nile. They gathered herbs while dew still rested upon the leaves. Her mother taught her to pick only healthy plants. Never too many. Always leaving enough for another season. Nature was respected. The land gave generously, but only when treated with care. Those lessons remained with her throughout her life. Now, many years later, she quietly passes them to her grandchildren whenever they ask. Knowledge moves gently across generations. Much like the river itself. Outside, the eastern sky grows a little brighter. The first birds begin greeting the morning. Their songs are soft at first. One voice. Then another. Soon the trees seem filled with gentle music. A light breeze stirs the palm leaves overhead. The air smells wonderfully fresh. It carries hints of damp soil, river water, and flowering plants growing along narrow irrigation canals. The village slowly begins to awaken. A young baker named Nak steps into his courtyard carrying a basket of flour. His family has baked bread for generations. The work always begins before sunrise. He kneels beside the grinding stone, adding grain little by little. The heavy upper stone moves with slow certainty. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. Its quiet rhythm fills the cool morning air. Nakt enjoys these peaceful hours. No crowds. No heat. Only steady work accompanied by birdsong and the occasional splash of fish jumping in the Nile. His younger sister soon joins him. She yawns softly before smiling. Without speaking, she begins preparing water for the dough. The two have worked together since childhood. They understand each other's movements almost without words. She notices him pressing his fingers gently against the bridge of his nose. "You slept poorly?" she asks. "A little," he replies. "My head feels heavy." She nods with understanding. While the dough rests, she fills a small linen cloth with cool water from a covered clay jar. She folds it carefully and places it across his forehead. Neither of them says much after that. There is no need. The quiet gesture says enough. As they continue baking, the cool cloth slowly eases the tightness behind his eyes. He smiles gratefully. Their morning work continues. The smell of fresh bread soon spreads through the village. Warm flour. Yeast. Smoke from the small oven. These familiar scents drift through open doorways, gently waking families one by one. Children stretch sleepily. Parents prepare for another day. The village begins breathing together once more. Across the river, in a settlement surrounded by broad green fields, a farmer named Kai prepares to inspect his irrigation channels. Water is precious. Every narrow canal must remain clear so the crops receive exactly what they need. He carries a simple wooden hoe across one shoulder. Beside him walks his oldest son. The boy is only 12 years old, but already eager to learn the work that has sustained their family for generations. The path beside the canal is quiet. Tiny frogs leap into the water as they approach. Dragonflies hover above the reeds. The morning sun now shines gently across the fields, making every blade of green seem almost golden. Kai stops beside a small bend in the canal. He kneels, scoops up a handful of water, and lets it run slowly through his fingers. "The river gives life," he says quietly. "But we must guide it with care." His son listens closely. Lessons are rarely hurried. The father points toward a section where reeds have begun blocking the flow. Together they clear the plants. The work is not difficult. It simply asks for patience. As they continue walking, the boy notices his father rubbing the back of his neck. "Does it hurt?" he asks. "A little. The sun yesterday was strong." The boy thinks for a moment. When they reach a shaded sycamore tree farther along the canal, he suggests they rest before continuing. His father smiles proudly. "That is wise." They sit beneath the broad branches. The leaves rustle gently above them. The shade feels wonderfully cool. Neither speaks for several minutes. The silence itself feels comforting. Nearby, water continues flowing quietly through the canal. Birds land among the reeds. A turtle slowly climbs onto a sun-warmed stone before slipping back into the water. The father stretches his shoulders. The tension begins to ease. His son watches carefully. Without realizing it, he is learning something beyond farming. He is learning that strength and rest belong together. The strongest people are not those who ignore their bodies. They are those who understand when to pause. As the morning grows brighter, life across Egypt unfolds in countless small ways. Potters begin shaping fresh clay gathered from the riverbank. The smooth wheels turn steadily beneath practiced hands. Weavers prepare new threads upon wooden looms. Their fingers move gracefully through patterns learned from parents and grandparents. Fishermen pull in nets shimmering with silver fish that flash briefly in the sunlight. Merchants arrange baskets filled with dates, onions, figs, cucumbers, and fragrant herbs. Children carry small bundles of kindling. Goats wander patiently through village lanes. Everywhere there is movement. Yet nowhere is there haste. The rhythm remains gentle, measured, peaceful. Inside a small healing room beside one of the temples, an experienced physician carefully examines a young stone mason who has come seeking help. The mason explains that headaches have troubled him since working high upon a limestone wall beneath several days of intense sunlight. The physician listens without interruption. He studies the man's eyes. He gently feels his forehead. He asks about sleep, about food, about water, about the hours spent beneath the sun. Only after listening does he begin preparing a remedy. He crushes fragrant herbs inside a polished stone mortar. A little oil is added. The mixture becomes smooth beneath the pestle. The scent rises into the cool room. Nearby, incense burns quietly. The physician offers calm advice. Work while the morning is cool whenever you can. Rest in shade when the sun stands highest. Drink before your thirst becomes great. The mason bows respectfully. These words are practical. Simple. They come from years of careful observation rather than guesswork alone. He leaves carrying not only herbs but also gentle reminders to care for himself. Outside, the village continues its quiet morning. The sun climbs a little higher. The breeze still moves softly across the Nile. The day's work has only just begun, and with it come all the familiar routines that have shaped the lives of ordinary Egyptians for countless generations: honest labor, patient healing, shared kindness, and the quiet hope that each new sunrise will bring strength enough for another peaceful day beside the timeless river. The morning ripens slowly beneath the wide Egyptian sky. The sun climbs a little higher with each passing moment, spreading warm light across the fields beside the Nile. Shadows that stretched long across the earth at dawn begin to grow shorter. The air is still pleasant, though everyone knows that by midday the familiar heat will settle gently over the valley once again. For now, the land feels full of quiet promise. The river glides between its banks with the same calm rhythm it has kept for thousands of years. Its surface catches the morning light, turning every small ripple into a shimmering ribbon of gold. Water birds stand motionless among the reeds, waiting with remarkable patience for fish to swim close enough to catch. Nothing in nature appears hurried. The fishermen understand this. The farmers understand it. Even the children, though eager to play, seem to move with the gentle pace taught by the land itself. In a village not far from the great city of Memphis, a family of brickmakers has already begun their work. Their home stands close to a broad stretch of damp earth where rich mud from the Nile is mixed with straw to form strong building bricks. The work has been done in this place for generations. The father, whose name is Ipu, steps barefoot into a shallow pit filled with cool mud. He presses the mixture beneath his feet with slow, careful movements. His sons bring bundles of chopped straw. His daughter carries buckets of water from a nearby canal. Everyone has a role. No task is too small. Together they prepare the mixture until it becomes smooth and firm. Then wooden molds are placed upon the ground. Each handful of mud is pressed gently into shape. The extra clay is scraped away with a flat piece of wood. The mold is lifted. Another brick rests quietly beneath the sun. Then another. And another. By the end of the day, hundreds will lie in neat rows, drying beneath the warm Egyptian sky. The work demands steady effort rather than speed. Each movement is repeated so often that it becomes almost like breathing. Press. Smooth. Lift. Walk. Return. Again. 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 After some time, Ipu pauses. He stretches his back and slowly rolls his shoulders. His oldest son notices. "Does your neck trouble you today?" "A little," his father replies with a gentle smile. "The muscles are stiff." The young man remembers something his grandmother taught him many years before. He fills a small linen cloth with cool water drawn from a covered clay jar. Without speaking, he places it gently across his father's neck. The older man closes his eyes for a few quiet moments. The coolness settles into tired muscles. A breeze passes across the fields. Somewhere nearby, someone is baking bread. The smell drifts softly through the air. For those few moments, the work can wait. No one complains. Everyone understands. The bricks will still be there. The sun will continue its slow journey. Rest has its place, just as labor does. When the cloth has warmed, the son dips it into cool water again. His father thanks him with a quiet nod. There is deep affection between them, expressed not through grand words but through ordinary acts of care. This is how many Egyptian families live. Love is often shown through helping hands. Across the river, in a small cluster of workshops, a woman named Nefru is preparing perfumes. Her workshop is simple but carefully arranged. Clay jars line wooden shelves. Bundles of dried flowers hang upside down from roof beams. Small bowls contain crushed herbs, fragrant resins, and oils pressed from seeds and plants. The room smells wonderful. Soft hints of mint. Sweet lotus blossoms. Fresh herbs gathered from marshes. Warm cedar. Gentle myrrh. The fragrances mingle together without overwhelming the senses. Nefru believes every scent has its own quiet character. Some remind people of spring mornings. Others recall evenings beside the Nile. Some feel refreshing. Others seem peaceful enough to invite sleep. She has noticed over many years that people troubled by headaches often linger a little longer inside her workshop. Perhaps it is because the air feels cool. Perhaps because the fragrances encourage slower breathing. Or perhaps because she always welcomes visitors with patience rather than hurry. This morning an elderly customer arrives carrying a walking stick carved from acacia wood. He removes his simple linen head covering and smiles politely. "My head has felt heavy these past few days," he says. Nefru listens. She never interrupts. When he finishes speaking, she prepares a small mixture of scented oil using crushed herbs and fragrant flowers. She pours only a little into a tiny clay container. "It may help you feel more comfortable," she says gently. "But do not forget to rest." The old man nods. He already knows. Yet hearing those words spoken kindly somehow makes them easier to follow. As he leaves, the pleasant fragrance lingers around him like a quiet companion. Farther south, a group of young apprentices gathers beneath the shade of a sycamore fig tree. Their teacher is an experienced carpenter whose hands have shaped furniture for noble households, temples, and ordinary families alike. Today he is not building anything. Instead, he teaches his students how to care for their tools. Each wooden handle is rubbed with oil. Each bronze blade is cleaned carefully. Every rope is inspected for signs of wear. One apprentice looks surprised. "We are not making furniture today." The carpenter smiles warmly. "If your tools remain healthy," he says, "your work becomes easier." He pauses before adding another thought. "The same is true for people." The students look at one another. He continues. "A tired body deserves care. Tired hands deserve rest. A weary mind deserves quiet." No one writes these words upon papyrus. Yet every student remembers them. Sometimes the simplest lessons remain longest in memory. By late morning, the marketplace has become lively once again. Merchants call out softly to greet familiar customers. Women compare baskets of vegetables. Children carry small bundles for their parents. A potter carefully arranges freshly fired jars beside woven mats. Nearby, a basket maker displays beautifully woven reed containers of many sizes. The air is filled with gentle conversation rather than loud noise. The smell of figs, fresh bread, herbs, and warm clay drifts together beneath the sunlight. Among the visitors walks a physician returning from several nearby homes. He has spent the morning checking on elderly patients unable to travel. His leather satchel contains small jars, folded linen cloths, dried herbs, and writing tools. As he crosses the market, several people greet him with respect. He smiles at each one. Healing in ancient Egypt often depended upon trust. A healer did not simply prepare remedies. He became familiar with families. He remembered who had suffered difficult harvests, who had recently lost a loved one, who worked long hours beneath the hottest sun. Illness rarely stood alone. It was part of a person's life. Understanding that life helped guide treatment. The physician stops at a fruit seller's stall. The merchant offers him several ripe dates. "You have walked far today." The physician accepts gratefully. Small kindnesses pass quietly between neighbors throughout the day. No one keeps count. No one expects payment for every generous act. Community itself becomes a kind of medicine. As the sun approaches its highest place in the sky, people begin preparing for the warmest hours. Workers fill clay jars with fresh water. Wide linen cloths are wrapped around heads and shoulders. Some families move household tasks into shaded courtyards where the air remains cooler. Children are encouraged to play beneath trees rather than in open fields. Experience has taught everyone the rhythm of the Egyptian climate. The land itself guides their choices. Near the edge of the village, Hori once again pauses beside the irrigation canal before beginning another task. The water moves quietly between earthen banks. He kneels and watches tiny fish swimming through the clear shallows. Dragonflies hover above the surface, their delicate wings catching flashes of sunlight. He remembers the headache that troubled him several days ago. It now feels distant, almost forgotten. Yet the experience has gently changed his habits. He drinks water more often. He seeks shade whenever work allows. He rests for a few moments instead of pushing through every sign of fatigue. His companions have noticed. Some have begun doing the same. No one speaks about it directly. The change simply spreads from one person to another, just as calmness often does. The village elder passes nearby. He smiles as he sees several workers resting beneath a cluster of palms. Even the Nile pauses, he says softly. The men look toward the river. At first they seem puzzled. Then they notice the quiet pools along the riverbank where the current slows before continuing downstream. The elder nods. Everything has its rhythm. Those simple words remain with them long after he has walked away. The afternoon will soon arrive with its familiar warmth. More work waits in the fields, the workshops, and along the river. Yet beneath every task lies the same quiet understanding that has shaped ordinary Egyptian life for centuries, that health is not found only in herbs, oils, or skilled healers, but also in cool water, patient hands, peaceful moments, shared wisdom, and the gentle kindness that neighbors offer one another as naturally as the Nile offers life to the land. The day grows quieter with every passing moment. The sun slowly slips beyond the western desert, leaving behind a sky painted in soft shades of amber, rose, and deep violet. The last warmth of the afternoon lingers upon the mud brick walls, while the first cool breeze of evening glides gently across the Nile. The river continues its endless journey. It asks for nothing. It expects nothing. It simply flows, just as it has through countless seasons, carrying fresh water to fields, villages, and every quiet corner of ancient Egypt. The fishermen have pulled their boats onto the shore. The farmers have placed their wooden tools beside their doors. The potters have covered their unfinished clay. The weavers have folded their linen. The scribes have rolled their papyrus and set aside their brushes. The ovens have grown warm with fresh bread, and the final meals of the day are shared beneath peaceful skies. Across the villages, small oil lamps begin to glow. Their gentle light spills softly across woven mats, clay jars, baskets of grain, and simple wooden furniture polished smooth by many years of careful hands. Families gather close together. Grandparents tell quiet stories whose beginnings no one remembers. Children listen until their eyes become heavy. A mother smooths a blanket across a sleeping child. A father quietly closes the wooden door against the cool night breeze. Outside, the stars slowly appear, one after another, until the whole sky becomes a great blanket of gentle light stretching over the valley. The moon rises above the palm trees, silver and calm. Its reflection drifts across the Nile, broken only by the smallest ripples moving with the current. The reeds whisper softly. Night birds call only now and then. Somewhere in the distance, A reed flute plays a slow melody before fading into silence. The sound hangs in the cool air for only a moment before becoming part of the peaceful night. The people of ancient Egypt rest. Their hands are tired from honest work. Their shoulders carry the memory of many seasons beneath the warm sun. Some have known small headaches. Some have carried aching muscles. Others have simply felt the quiet weariness that follows a full day lived close to the earth. Yet they also know something equally ancient. The comfort of cool water shared by a friend. The kindness of gentle hands placing a damp linen cloth across a warm forehead. The calming fragrance of herbs gathered beside the Nile. The relief found beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. The quiet wisdom passed from grandparents to grandchildren. The peaceful rhythm of work followed by well-earned rest. Healing, for them, is rarely one single remedy. It is found in many small moments. In patience. In family. In listening. In allowing the body to slow when the day has become too heavy. As the night deepens, every village becomes quieter. The cooking fires burn low until only glowing embers remain. The last conversations fade into whispers. One by one, the oil lamps are gently extinguished. Darkness settles kindly across the valley. The Nile alone continues its patient journey beneath the stars. Its waters carry moonlight northward through fields that sleep peacefully until another dawn arrives. Tomorrow, before sunrise, the bakers will rise again. The fishermen will untie their boats. The farmers will walk familiar paths beside the irrigation canals. Children will wake to the smell of fresh bread. Birds will greet the morning from the reeds. The river will once again nourish every living thing along its banks. Life will continue with the same quiet rhythm that has endured for thousands of years. And somewhere, another ordinary person may wake with a tired head after a long day beneath the Egyptian sun. Someone will offer cool water. Someone will bring fragrant herbs. Someone will gently say, "Rest for a little while." Simple kindness will continue, just as faithfully as the Nile itself. Now, the stars shine brighter than ever. The warm desert wind has become soft and cool. Palm leaves sway gently against the night sky. The great temples stand silent beneath the moon. The mud brick homes rest peacefully along the river banks. Even the animals have grown still. Only the quiet sound of flowing water remains. So let your thoughts drift like the Nile. Slowly. Peacefully. Without hurry. Leave behind the heat of the day. Leave behind every small worry. Imagine the cool night air touching your face. Imagine the gentle whisper of reeds beside the river. Imagine the soft glow of distant lamps disappearing one by one into the darkness. Ancient Egypt sleeps. The river flows on. The stars keep their silent watch above the timeless valley. And in that calm and gentle place, where ordinary people lived with patience, kindness, and quiet hope, the night stretches on without end, peaceful as the waters of the Nile, carrying every weary heart softly into rest.